Good morning, River Park Church. Well, it's a cold and rainy day here in Marda Loop, but still a beautiful day and a beautiful June day with a whole lot of construction going on behind me here in town. They've got 34th Street closed and probably will be. And so if you're coming from the west side on your way to church this Sunday, be prepared for a little detour. But that's not what I'm here to talk with you about. This Sunday, we're starting our new sermon series looking at what God did before. The joy of looking at what God did before is that one of the things the Bible tells us is that Jesus Christ is the same yesterday, today, and forever. And so when we look at what God did before, we will have confidence to know what to expect that God will do today, because He is who He is, and how God was with His people in the past shows us in great deal how He is with us today. So this Sunday we're going to start looking at the story of Stephen in Acts. Just before Stephen is stoned and killed on the charge of blasphemy, he gives this amazing and beautiful speech where he goes into great detail about all the things that God did in the Old Testament. How God's plan from the beginning was to draw all people to Himself. How He started by giving Himself to Adam and Eve, and even when they refused to live with God in God's terms, then God gave Himself to Abraham, to Isaac, to Jacob, to the Israelites. He gave Himself in the temple, or the tabernacle first, and then the temple. And He gave Himself and blessed His people so that they would be a blessing to others. This was God's plan from the beginning. And Stephen goes through this in great detail to the teachers of the law and the Sanhedrin, the leaders of Israel's people, before they reject him and turn back to their own traditions, back to their own privilege, and back to their own comfortable ways. Now we have the blessing of hindsight, the benefit of hindsight, and we know how that story ends. The Jews, those Jewish leaders at that time in Jerusalem, suffered greatly. About 40 years after they stoned Stephen, Jerusalem was demolished and the Jewish people were scattered all around the world. But the gospel, the work of Jesus, and the story of God's people continued. Not only were followers of the way of Jesus scattered when Jerusalem was destroyed, but Paul and Barnabas, Paul and Silas, the other disciples and apostles, continued to proclaim that good news throughout the ancient world. Not just to Jews, but also to Gentiles. And so what we see throughout the New Testament is that God continues to work on the plan that He had from the beginning, to use a few people, one group, to be a blessing to all nations. We are beneficiaries of that blessing and that plan, but we also are participants in that blessing and in that plan. And so as we think about baptisms to come this summer, as we think about our identity as God's people, it's one of the things that we remember. We are recipients of God's blessing and God's work, but also participants in God's blessing and God's work. We're members of His family, and we're participants in His kingdom work. That's the story of what it means to be a Christian, and part of our baptismal identity, part of our church membership identity, and part of our purpose, a key part of our purpose and identity in God's world. And we get to figure out together just what that looks like here in Calgary, here in Marda Loop in 2026, whether it's a rainy day or, we hope, a sunny day to come. That's enough from me. I hope you'll join me on Sunday and join all of us at River Park this Sunday to hear more about that and to start our new sermon series together. And I wish you a safe and dry rest of your week.